The galaxy had always believed it knew everything. Empires controlled planets, star systems, and entire sectors with fleets that stretched for light years. They thought themselves invincible. They thought no race could rise without their permission. Humanity, in their eyes, was just another young species, curious, noisy, reckless. Dangerous in their unpredictability, perhaps, but not a real threat. Commander Talora of the Aerith Alliance stared at the glowing hollow screen on her bridge. Red dots flickered across star charts, and her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the readings. Hundreds of unknown ships were moving across uncharted space, human ships. And not just a handful, far more than the intelligence reports had ever predicted. The humans had rebuilt. They had multiplied. They had survived. "It cannot be," Talora whispered. Her voice barely reached the officers around her. "We destroyed most of their fleets in the last campaign. There should be nothing left. Nothing." But the readings were unmistakable. The sensors had not lied. Human vessels, some sleek and new, others patched together from scavenged scrap, were converging. They moved not with chaos, but with precision. Every ship, every crew seemed to carry purpose. And with that purpose came something the Aerith Empire could not measure with numbers or firepower. Spirit. The council hall of the Aerith Empire was in uproar. Advisors shouted over one another, generals argued with pale faces, and the Emperor watched from his throne, silent but terrified. The humans were never supposed to fight like this. They were never supposed to endure the losses, rebuild the fleets, and strike back with determination. The arrogance of the Empire had failed to understand that humanity fought not just with weapons, but with hope. Across the galaxy, on a human command ship called Resolve, Admiral Rena Voss stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. Her hands rested lightly on the rail, but her mind raced. The fleet was growing. Ships from systems once thought isolated, once thought vulnerable, had joined. Civilian vessels had been converted, older ships patched and upgraded. Every contribution counted. "We are more than our ships," she told her crew. "We are humanity," and they thought fear could stop us. They were wrong. Her words carried weight. Every human on that bridge, every soldier, pilot, and engineer felt it in their hearts. They were fighting not only for survival but for memory, for the planets lost, the friends gone, and the families they promised to protect. Every ship, every weapon, every sacrifice meant something. It was more than a battle. It was a statement. Humanity would not bow. When the first human transmissions reached the Aerith Empire, the message was simple and chilling. "We are not finished. We are only beginning." The council erupted in panic. Strategists scrambled star maps and tried to predict the humans' next move. Generals spoke in fearful tones about what the humans could do next. Talora's hands tightened on her console. She had fought many battles, but never against a force so unpredictable, so unyielding, so terrifying in its unity. The humans did not fight for dominance. They did not fight for territory. They fought for life itself, and for freedom. They had learned from every defeat, adapted faster than any other species, and now returned stronger than anyone expected. Talora realized the truth as she looked at her fleet's holograms. The humans were not just surviving. They were proving a simple fact the galaxy had forgotten. Spirit, courage, and hope could not be destroyed by numbers, technology, or fear. The Aerith Empire had prepared for an enemy it could count, an enemy it could crush. Humanity was neither. And so, as the stars stretched endlessly before her, Talora felt the first real tremor of fear. Humanity was coming. Not just with ships, but with something far more powerful. Something the Empire could not understand, measure, or defeat. The humans were coming with hope, courage, and a fire that burned brighter than any weapon. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The edge of the Helios Rift was a dark, cold void where stars seemed to vanish. Aerith warships lined the rift like predators waiting for prey. Their engines glowed softly, casting long shadows across the hulls. Captain Talora walked the bridge of the flagship Crimson Spear, her mind heavy with unease. The human fleet was supposed to be small, disorganized, and easy to destroy, yet her sensors told another story. Hundreds of ships moved with coordination that defied logic. The humans did not hesitate. They were not reckless. They were fearless. Admiral Rena Voss stood on the bridge of the human flagship Resolve, her eyes fixed on the distance. She could see the Empire's forces waiting, confident, proud, unshaken. Yet she felt no fear. Every human on her bridge had already chosen to fight, and every life counted. Every pilot, every engineer, every soldier understood one truth. They were the future. The first shots tore through the darkness. Energy beams streaked across the void, colliding in brilliant explosions. The Crimson Spear fired, and smaller Aerith vessels followed, unleashing a storm of fire and destruction. But the humans were fast, smarter than the Empire expected. Old ships darted between the beams, new vessels unleashed precise strikes, and some ships appeared from hidden angles, flanking the Aerith lines. Talora's heart pounded. Her fleet had fought countless enemies, but nothing like this. Every human ship destroyed seemed only to strengthen their resolve. They adapted instantly, changing tactics mid-battle. "Focus on the left flank," she shouted, but her officers struggled to keep up. Every strategy she had ever learned failed against their unpredictability. On the Resolve, Voss felt the strain, but her voice was calm, inspiring. "Hold steady. Protect each other. We survive together." Her words echoed across the fleet, carried through comms to every ship. Ordinary humans, farmers, miners, engineers, moved with confidence, knowing that the fight was bigger than themselves. Every hit they dodged, every enemy ship they destroyed filled them with hope. Explosions lit up the rift like fireworks, but the humans pressed on. They fought not just for victory but for survival, and every human life mattered. They refused to surrender. Even as ships burned, as cries echoed through damaged comms, they continued. Their fleet was smaller, but their determination was larger than the Empire had ever imagined. Talora's hands shook as she watched another human ship dodge her final volley and strike an Aerith destroyer. She realized with a sinking feeling that they were not fighting like others. Humans learned from every mistake, remembered every loss, and turned it into strength. The Empire had thought it could intimidate them with sheer power. Now it understood. The truth: humans were not afraid. After hours of relentless combat, the first clash ended. The Aerith fleet had suffered serious losses. The humans had not destroyed the Empire, but they had shattered its confidence. Talora looked at the empty void where so many ships had fallen and felt a cold fear she had never known. The humans were not just survivors. They were unstoppable in their determination. On the human side, sailors cheered quietly, their voices tired but proud. "We held the line," a pilot said, gripping the controls. "We survived, and tomorrow, we fight again." Voss nodded, a small smile on her face. She knew the war was far from over, but the first victory mattered. Not because of the ships destroyed, but because humanity had proven something far greater than technology or firepower: courage, unity, and hope. Back in the council hall of the Aerith Empire, the panic grew. Strategies that once seemed unassailable crumbled. Advisors whispered that humans had reserves no one knew about, forces that could not be counted, tactics that could not be predicted. The Empire had underestimated them, and the cost of that mistake was clear. Fear spread like wildfire. The galaxy had seen one human fleet, but the Empire now realized it might only be the beginning. And somewhere in the void, the human fleet continued its slow advance. Every crew member, every ship felt the weight of survival and the thrill of defiance. Humanity had shown the first spark of its strength, and the galaxy would never forget it. The galaxy held its breath. After the first clash at the Helios Rift, the humans did not retreat. They did not celebrate. They repaired, rebuilt, and moved forward with determination that unsettled the Aerith Empire more than any fleet could. Reports of their numbers, their cunning maneuvers, and their unbreakable morale spread through the Empire like wildfire. Talora felt the weight of it on her shoulders. Every plan, every strategy, every prediction failed against these humans. Admiral. Rena Voss walked through the corridors of the Resolve, her boots echoing softly against steel floors. Crew members paused to glance at her, exhaustion etched into every face, but also pride. "How do they keep coming?" one young pilot asked, quietly. "We already lost so many systems." Voss knelt beside him. "Because every human believes in something bigger than themselves," she said gently. "They fight for each other, they fight for life, and they fight because no one else will. That is why we survive. That is why we will win." Even as the humans repaired their ships, the Aerith Empire was mobilizing with desperate urgency. New fleets were deployed, more massive, more heavily armed. Talora watched as dozens of destroyers, cruisers, and carriers prepared to crush the human forces. Their arrogance returned for a moment. How could these mere humans withstand the full might of the Empire? Yet deep inside, a seed of fear had taken root. The humans approached the Demora system, a cluster of starports and mineral-rich planets that the Empire considered untouchable. It was a trap, Talora believed, a chance to finally destroy them. But the humans did not hesitate. Civilian transports, old cargo ships, and repaired warships moved in perfect formation. They were not just a fleet, they were a statement. Humanity refused to bow to fear. When the first shots rang out, the humans did not panic. The Demora defenses were powerful, but the humans had tactics that no one expected. Fighters weaved through asteroid fields, bombers struck with pinpoint precision, and even older patched-up ships provided cover for critical attacks. Every move was calculated, every sacrifice meaningful. Voss watched her fleet, feeling both pride and sorrow. Every explosion reminded her of what they had lost. Every destroyed ship was a life gone. Yet every maneuver reminded her of what they had gained: courage, trust, and unity. She sent out one simple transmission to the entire fleet. No one stands alone. Not today. Not ever. The humans pushed forward despite heavy losses. Each destroyed Aerith vessel felt like a victory, but each human casualty was felt deeply across the fleet. Families waited on distant planets, anxious for news. Friends mourned those who fell. And yet, even in grief, the humans refused to falter. They knew survival was not enough. They had to prove something larger, that the galaxy could not destroy, a spirit that refused to break. Talora's fleet was faltering. The Aerith Empire's firepower was immense, yet the humans adapted. They learned from every attack, predicted every trap, and used their weaknesses against them. Talora felt frustration boil into fear. If humans could endure this, if they could survive the Demora defenses, what could stop them? Hours turned into days. The battle stretched across star systems, leaving trails of fire, debris, and silent cries in the void. Yet the humans pressed on, unbowed. Talora realized that this was not just a military campaign. It was a test of will, a war of spirit. And in this war, humanity had a strength no technology could match: hope. Finally, at the end of the long engagement, the humans held the Demora system. The Empire's forces had been repelled, though at a great cost. Voss looked at the shattered fleet around her, knowing they were not safe, but feeling a fierce pride. They had proven something undeniable. Humanity was alive, unstoppable, and more than anyone had expected. Back on the Crimson Spear, Talora stared at the wreckage left behind. Her voice was barely a whisper. How do they keep surviving? She asked herself. The answer was clear and terrifying. Humans did not just survive. They fought for life, for each other, for hope. And that was a power the Empire could never understand. The galaxy was beginning to change. Humanity had arrived, not as a threat to be crushed, but as a force the Empire could not ignore. And the Empire, for the first time in its long history, was afraid. The war stretched across star systems, and the humans pressed on. Every fleet movement, every plan was met with disbelief from the Aerith Empire. Talora sat in her command chamber, aboard the Crimson Spear, staring at the hollow map of the galaxy. Red dots flickered across the screen. Human ships everywhere. Every system she thought secure had been touched, and more were joining the fight. Panic gnawed at her chest. The humans were no longer predictable. They were unstoppable. Admiral. Voss watched her fleet through the viewport of the Resolve. Stars blurred as ships moved in formation, gliding past debris fields and through asteroid belts. Casualties had mounted, but her crew remained determined. She walked among them, greeting pilots, engineers, and medics. Every face told a story of loss, yet also of courage. Humans were not only fighting, they were proving something larger than themselves, that unity and hope could carry them through even the darkest nights. Admiral, a young officer called, pointing at the tactical display. The Empire is massing its strongest fleet in the Orion sector. They plan to cut us off before we can reach the Lyra colonies. Voss nodded slowly. Then we don't wait for them to strike first. We lead. We fight smart, not just strong. Her eyes scanned the fleet. Every ship here has a part to play. We protect each other, and we survive together. The Orion sector was treacherous. Nebula clouds distorted sensors, magnetic storms interfered with communication, and gravity wells threatened to pull ships off course. The humans used it to their advantage. Smaller, nimble ships darted through narrow passes, while larger vessels laid cover fire, absorbing the Empire's attacks. Every maneuver showed creativity, courage, and an understanding the Empire could not anticipate. Talora's fleet struck, confident in their overwhelming numbers and superior technology. But the humans were ready. They had learned, adapted, and now anticipated many of the Empire's tactics. Aerith destroyers fell to carefully. Timed strikes and bombers that once relied on brute force were neutralized by human ingenuity. Every victory the Empire expected slipped through their fingers like stardust. In the chaos, individual heroism shone. Voss watched a young pilot named Jalen, barely out of training, risk his life to save a damaged carrier. He maneuvered through a collapsing asteroid field, drawing enemy fire and giving his fleet time to retreat and regroup. Voss felt pride and sorrow at the same moment. These humans fought not because they had to, but because they believed in something greater than themselves. The battle raged for hours. The Empire's fleets, powerful and disciplined, could not break human resolve. Talora felt desperation rise with each human counterattack. She had commanded victories across the galaxy, but never faced an enemy like this. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers, it was in spirit. Every loss the humans endured seemed only to ignite greater courage in the survivors. By the end of the day, the Orion sector remained under human control. The Empire had suffered staggering losses, and their confidence was fractured. Talora's hands shook as she watched the reports. How are they still standing? She muttered, disbelief cracking her voice. Voss, exhausted but unbroken, addressed her fleet through comms. This is not just a fight for space, this is a fight for who we are. Every ship, every life, every act of courage matters. We may be small, but together we are unstoppable. The galaxy will remember that humanity never backs down. The words carried across every vessel, reaching even those who were injured, scared, or mourning. Hope burned brighter than any weapon. The humans had survived impossible odds, proving that courage and unity could topple even the mightiest empire. The Aerith Empire began to realize a terrifying truth. Humanity was not just a fleeting rebellion. They were a force no strategy could contain, no weapon could destroy. And for the first time in history, the galaxy's most powerful empire understood that the humans' greatest strength was not technology, not numbers, but heart. As the stars glimmered over the Orion sector, the human fleet sailed forward. Their losses were heavy, but their spirit unbroken. Humanity had survived, adapted, and now the tide of war was beginning to turn. The Empire could panic, prepare, and strike. But humanity had already proven one undeniable fact. They would never stop. The human fleet had survived the Orion sector. Now they moved deeper into enemy territory, into systems the Aerith Empire had believed untouchable. Stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and distant, but the humans felt warmth in their purpose. Every ship, every crew member, carried the same message. Humanity was not afraid. Humanity would not bow. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolve, staring at the approaching Imperial worlds. Reports of human casualties weighed heavily on her mind. Ships had been destroyed, friends had been lost, and entire crews had vanished into the void. Yet the humans did not falter. They rebuilt, repaired, and pressed forward with determination that surprised even Voss herself. On one of the smaller frigates, Lieutenant Mara Ellen gripped the console, her knuckles white. Her younger brother had been lost in the previous battle, and grief threatened to overwhelm her. But she glanced around at her crew, faces set with determination, hearts unbroken, and a fierce resolve rose within her. "We fight for them," she whispered. "For every life lost, for every home destroyed, for every future we refuse to surrender." The Aerith Empire had prepared a trap, concentrating fleets around the Valaris cluster, a system rich with resources and strategic stations. They believed overwhelming numbers would crush the humans once and for all. Talora, aboard the Crimson Spear, was confident her forces would end this rebellion. But as the humans approached, her confidence wavered. Every tactical prediction had failed before, and the humans now moved with ingenuity and courage that no one could foresee. The first salvo erupted, massive beams of energy tearing through space. Explosions lit the void, sending debris pinning in all directions. The humans responded with precision strikes, feints, and daring maneuvers. Even battered ships found ways to contribute, sacrificing themselves to protect carriers, drawing fire, or completing vital sabotage missions. The Empire's might clashed with human spirit, and the results shook commanders on both sides. Voss watched as Mara's frigate led a daring run through a heavily defended station cluster. Fighters darted around energy beams, dodging explosions, as the frigate delivered a critical strike that disabled enemy defenses. Communication lines crackled with shouts, cheers, and cries. Voss felt pride and sorrow simultaneously. Humans were brave beyond reason, yet the cost was visible everywhere. Ships torn apart, lives lost, yet still the fleet pressed forward. Talora watched the reports, disbelief and fear gnawing at her. They adapt, every time, faster than expected, she muttered. The humans had no single leader commanding them, yet they moved in perfect synchronization. Each loss seemed to make them stronger. Each strike they survived gave them knowledge, courage, and hope that could not be measured. Hours stretched into days. The Valaris cluster became a battlefield where ordinary humans performed extraordinary acts. Engineers rerouted power mid-battle to shield vital systems. Pilots risked their lives to protect transports carrying civilians. Soldiers boarded enemy ships, capturing stations, and turning the Empire's own resources against them. Every human contribution mattered. Every life lost was honored, and every victory inspired more courage. Finally, after relentless combat, the humans held the cluster. The Empire's forces had been repelled, suffering losses they could not easily replace. Talora's voice trembled as she addressed her command. How do they keep surviving? Even her officers, trained for decades in war, could not answer. The humans had proven beyond doubt that they were more than fighters. They were a force no one could suppress. Voss sent a simple message to every ship in the fleet. We fight not just for survival, but for the future. Every life, every action, every heart matters. Together we are unstoppable. The fleet responded with cheers, tears, and quiet determination. Humanity had survived impossible odds, turned despair into strength, and proven that the galaxy's most powerful empire could not crush them. As the stars of the Valaris cluster shimmered, the human fleet continued its advance. They had lost much, but their spirit burned brighter than ever. The Aerith Empire's fear deepened. For the first time it was clear, humanity was not just a nuisance, Humanity was a storm. And no empire could withstand a storm that refused to be broken. The galaxy had grown silent in anticipation. Across countless star systems, the humans pressed forward, carrying the scars of battle but the fire of defiance in their hearts. The Aerith Empire had thrown everything at them, armadas, orbital defenses, traps, but nothing could stop humanity. Every loss, every sacrifice had only made them stronger, more determined, and more united. Admiral Rena Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolve, looking at the approaching heart of the Empire. She could feel the weight of every life in her fleet, the wounded, the lost, the courageous. But she also felt hope. Hope that had carried humanity across impossible odds. Hope that would not allow them to surrender. We have come too far to stop now, she thought. We are humanity, and we endure. Below deck, Lieutenant Mara Elan paused beside the memorial wall where the names of lost crew members were etched in light. Her brother's name glowed softly. She traced her fingers across it, feeling both sorrow and pride. "We fight for you," she whispered, "for every one of you, for everyone who believed in humanity." Around her, the crew readied weapons, repaired systems, and steeled themselves for what lay ahead. Fear was present, but it was powerless against determination. Talora, aboard the Crimson Spear, watched the humans advance. Panic had grown into terror in the halls of the Empire. Their fleets, powerful beyond imagination, had been repelled again and again. Every attack the humans survived, every loss they endured and overcame, tore apart the belief that the Empire was invincible. Talora's mind raced. They are not just soldiers. They are hope made flesh, and hope cannot be destroyed. The final battle came near the core world of the Empire. Massive starports, towering defenses, and fleets larger than any the humans had faced loomed in the void. The first shots fired like thunder across space, but the humans moved with calm precision. Fighters weaved through heavy fire. Bombers struck. Vital stations and ships that had once been cargo vessels carried critical strikes. Every action was intentional, every sacrifice meaningful. Voss coordinated the fleet with quiet authority. Protect each other. Move as one. Fight not for victory, alone, but for survival, for hope, for the future. Her words spread across the comms, and every human heart felt them. Ordinary people, farmers, engineers, miners, pilots, were doing the extraordinary. They risked everything, but they never wavered. Explosions lit the void, tearing through enemy ships, shaking the largest starports and sending fire and debris into the cold darkness. The humans lost many, but their courage never faltered. Ships that survived patched together what they could, fighters returned, and boarding teams turned enemy vessels into allies. The impossible became possible because they believed in each other, in humanity, and in the idea that no force could break them. Talora watched her fleets crumble under the humans' relentless advance. Her confidence shattered, replaced by fear and disbelief. Every tactic failed, every prediction missed the mark. Humanity was not just fighting. It was rewriting the rules of war. They were unstoppable because their strength was not in firepower, nor in numbers. It was in spirit, in unity, in courage, and in hope. Finally, the Aerith Empire's core world fell into human control. The Empire's command crumbled. Panic spread like wildfire. They had underestimated humanity at every turn, and now the truth was undeniable. Humanity was a force the galaxy could not suppress. Ships that survived the battle cheered, voices echoing through comms, tears streaming from faces that had known grief, loss, and sacrifice. Yet their joy was quiet, solemn, because every victory had come at a cost. Admiral Voss looked out at the stars, exhausted but proud. Humanity had endured, survived, and proven a simple truth. The galaxy could not crush a species that fought for life, hope, and freedom. The humans had risen from the ashes of destruction to show that courage and unity were more powerful than fear and firepower. And across the galaxy, in every corner where the story would be told, the Aerith Empire finally understood. Humanity was not just another species. Humanity was hope incarnate. Humanity could not be destroyed. Humanity had more forces, not just ships but spirit, and the galaxy would never forget it. The stars shimmered with new light as the human fleet moved forward, battered, scarred, but unbroken. The Empire had panicked, and humanity had risen. And in that moment, a new chapter of the galaxy began, one where humans would never again be underestimated. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity would endure, no matter the odds.